Can you imagine the gut punch I felt when I discovered the Sunny Pines HOA was bulldozing 96 luxury homes onto my inherited farmland? I mean, my farmland mine. But, oh, the sweet twist of fate when I stumbled across Grandpa Joe's original property surveys, and boom, their whole fancy development flipped into my legal property overnight. Would you believe the stunned, jaw-dropping looks on their faces when I sprang my trap right in the middle of their own community meeting? I still can't. I never dreamed I'd be battling tooth and nail for land that's been rightfully mine all along. When Grandpa Joe passed away last March, he left me his sprawling 200-acre farm just outside Meadow Creek, a treasure that's been in our family for generations, a piece of our very soul. I was stuck in the city, drowning in a hectic job, barely able to visit that sacred ground as often as I should have, and it gnawed at me every day. Then, out of the blue, my phone jolted me awake at 6:00 a.m. on a Tuesday, 6:00 a.m. It was Mrs. Thompson, Grandpa's neighbor for 40 long years, her voice trembling with fury. "They're building houses on your property!" she practically shouted, and I could hear the outrage shaking her to her core. "Big yellow machines started digging yesterday. You need to come quick now." At first I thought, could she be mixed up? Maybe some clumsy construction crew had accidentally wandered over the line? But Mrs. Thompson? She's not the type to cry wolf, no way. "The Sunny Pines people put up signs all over," she went on, her words hitting me like a freight train. "They're planning almost 100 houses where your east fields are." My heart raced. Those fields? Grandpa's fields? I flung clothes into a suitcase, hands shaking, and hit the gas for Meadow Creek. Speed limits be damned, tires squealing as I tore out of the city. 5 grueling hours later, I swung onto the dusty dirt road to Grandpa's farmhouse, my knuckles white on the wheel. That familiar path, oh, how it used to soothe me, felt all wrong now, tainted, like something precious had been ripped away. What was that noise? The peaceful hum of the countryside was drowned out by the guttural roar of heavy machinery. Can you believe it? Dust clouds billowed up over the trees as I crested the hill overlooking the eastern stretch of the property, and my stomach dropped. Oh no, no, no. Bulldozers and excavators giant, merciless beasts were clawing into the earth where Grandpa once grew golden corn and soybeans, tearing apart his legacy right before my eyes. Workers in hard hats scurried like ants, spraying bright orange paint across the ground, marking their conquest. And there, bold as brass, stood a huge sign by the road screaming, "Future home of Sunny Pines East, 96 luxury homes, starting at $450,000. My blood boiled. Who gave them the right? I slammed my car into park and marched toward a woman standing off to the side, cool as a cucumber amid the chaos. She was decked out in spotless beige pants and a crisp white blouse. Seriously, how was she not covered in dust? Her hair was styled to perfection, like she'd just stepped out of a salon, and she clutched a clipboard, chatting away on her phone like she owned the place. "Excuse me," I called out as she hung up, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "What's happening here?" She gave me this slow, appraising look, like I was some pesky salesman hawking vacuums, before answering in a tone so smooth it dripped with rehearsal. "We're preparing for residential development. Diane Reynolds, Sunny Pines Homeowners Association president." She stuck out her hand, but there was zero warmth in it, just pure calculation. "This is my land," I snapped, brushing off her handshake like it was nothing. "My grandfather, Joe Miller, owned this farm. He passed away recently, and I inherited it." Diane's smile didn't even flicker, but it never touched her cold, calculating eyes. "There must be some misunderstanding," she said, her voice oozing fake pity. "Sunny Pines Development purchased this parcel last year. We have all the necessary permits and approvals." "That's impossible," I shot back, my voice rising. My grandfather would never sell this land, never in a million years. Perhaps he didn't tell you, she said, tilting her head like she was talking to a child. The sale was finalized 9 months ago. We've been planning this expansion for years. Years. My mind spun like a top. Grandpa had been sick in his last months, sure, but his mind? Sharp as a tack. He'd never have sold this farm, his pride, his heart, without a word to me. No way. Something was rotten here, and I could smell it. I need to see those documents, I demanded, my fists clenching. You're welcome to contact our legal department, Diane replied coolly, sliding a business card into my hand like it was a dismissal. But I assure you, everything is in order. Now, if you'll excuse me, we have a schedule to maintain. She turned her back on me, actually turned her back and started dialing her phone again. I stood there, helpless, watching those monstrous machines rip into the soil that had sustained my family for generations, my chest tight with fury and despair. Back at the farmhouse, Miss S. Thompson was waiting on the porch, a pitcher of iced tea in her hands and worry etched deep into her weathered face. They started showing up with measuring tools about 3 months ago, she said, her voice low and urgent. Your grandpa was furious. Oh, you should have seen him. He kept saying they had no right, that they were trying to steal what wasn't theirs. Did he ever mention selling any land? I asked, desperate for a shred of clarity. Never, she exclaimed, her eyes welling up. Joe swore this farm would stay in your family forever, he said. The day before he went to the hospital for the last time, he was rummaging through his old office, muttering about finding something important to protect the farm. Protect it. From what? Grandpa's office was a time capsule, untouched since his death. I hadn't had the strength to sift through his things when I'd come for the funeral. Too many memories, too much pain. But now I needed answers, and I needed them fast. The little room hit me with a wave of nostalgia, pipe tobacco, and old books, a scent that was pure grandpa. Shelves stretched to the ceiling, crammed with farming almanacs, dusty family photo albums, and decades of meticulous records. That man tracked everything: rainfall amounts, crop yields, equipment repairs, all in his neat, steady handwriting. Where would he hide property records? The filing cabinet seemed like the obvious spot, right? I yanked open the top drawer, heart pounding, and found folders sorted by year. But nothing, no land sales, no sunny pines, just endless farm logs. Hours dragged by as I searched, the sun sinking low, my eyes burning from squinting at faded papers under the dim lamplight. Was I chasing a ghost? Just as I was about to throw in the towel, exhausted and defeated, I spotted it, a loose floorboard under the desk. I pressed it with my foot, and holy cow, it wiggled. I dropped to my knees, grabbed a letter opener, and pried it up, my pulse racing like a drum roll. Tucked in that tiny hidden nook was a metal box jackpot. The key dangled from a nail under the desk, and I fumbled it into the lock with shaky hands. Inside, the deed to the farm, Grandpa's will naming me his heir, and a stack of yellowed surveys old as dirt. But the real treasure? A letter in Grandpa's unmistakable scrawl addressed to me. If you're reading this, it started, then someone's trying to take what's ours. My hands trembled as I devoured his words. Could this really be happening? Grandpa laid it all out. Developers had been sniffing around his land for years, hounding him to sell, but he'd stood firm every time. In his final months, some slick guy from Sunny Pines kept showing up, pushing for a signature on a so-called road easement, waving different papers each visit. I never signed away my land, Grandpa wrote, his defiance leaping off the page. If they say I did, it's a lie, a bold-faced lie. Look at the original survey from 1910 and compare it to what's recorded at the county now. The truth is in the boundaries. Boundaries? What boundaries? I dug deeper into the box, and there it was, the 1910 survey, brittle and faded but clear as day. My jaw dropped. Grandpa's farm wasn't 200 acres like I'd thought. It was nearly 280. Sleep? Forget it. I stayed up all night, spreading papers across the kitchen table, my coffee going cold as I pored over the old survey and newer maps. What in the world had happened? Over the decades, the eastern boundary had shifted, shrinking our land bit by bit. And get this, it wasn't just the construction zone. Those original lines proved we owned chunks of the existing Sunny Pines development too. They'd built their precious clubhouse and 20 homes on my landmine. By dawn, my path was crystal clear. Oh, I was ready. First, a lawyer's stat. Then, I'd dig into whatever shady game Diane Reynolds and her HOA were playing. Did they really think they could swipe this from my family? Ha! They were in for a rude awakening. I folded Grandpa's letter, slipped it into my pocket, and whispered to the empty room, "I won't let you down, Grandpa, the first swear it." Diane had no clue she'd tangled with more than a grieving grandkid. She'd stepped right into a trap laid by a man who'd seen her kind coming from beyond the grave. Oh, how sweet that felt. I didn't catch a wink of sleep that night. How could I? By 8:00 a.m., I was pacing outside Walter Franklin's office, the only property lawyer in Meadow Creek, my nerves buzzing like live wires. His secretary raised an eyebrow when I begged for an emergency slot. Can you blame her? But she squeezed me in before lunch. "So, you believe Sunny Pines is building on land that belongs to you?" Walter asked, peering at me over his thick glasses after I spilled the whole wild tale. He was older than I'd pictured, sporting a bow tie straight out of the 1950s, quirky but sharp. I flung the documents across his desk like a winning poker hand. "These are the original surveys from 1910, updated in 1978. Check them out. Compare them to the current county records." Walter pored over the papers, his finger tracing boundary lines, his bushy eyebrows climbing higher with every second. Did he see it too? "This is highly unusual," he finally declared, his voice tinged with disbelief. "According to these original documents, your property stretches nearly half a mile further east than what's on the books now. That would include not just the construction site, but the existing Sunny Pines clubhouse and about 20 homes built 5 years ago." I nodded, finishing his thought. "Oh, I'd been waiting to say it." He peeled off his glasses, rubbing his eyes like he couldn't believe what he'd uncovered. "A boundary dispute this big? It won't be a walk in the park. We've got to figure out how and when these changes sneaked into the official record pronto." Can you believe the bombshell that hit us when Walter grabbed the phone and dialed the county assessor's office, slamming it on speaker so we could both hear the truth unfold? We waded through a maddening maze of departments. Seriously, how many people does it take to answer one question? And then, bam, we stumbled onto something so shocking it made my heart stop. Back in 1984, they'd recorded a tiny tweak to the eastern boundary, just a measly 10-foot easement for utilities. No big deal, right? But then, in 1997, a massive change popped up out of nowhere, slashing Grandpa's property by nearly 80 acres. 80 acres, can you even imagine? The paperwork? Barely a scrap, just a flimsy form with a signature that looked nothing like Grandpa's bold, steady hand. "He would have been in the hospital that month," I blurted out, my voice shaking as I double-checked the date. "Triple bypass surgery. He couldn't have signed this. No way." Walter's face turned as grim as a storm cloud. That would constitute fraud, straight-up fraud. But proving it after all these years? That's gonna be a beast to tackle. "What can we do?" I demanded, my pulse racing. How could we fight this monster? "File for an emergency injunction to stop that construction dead in its tracks right now," Walter shot back, his eyes glinting with determination. "Then we'll petition the court to recognize the original boundaries based on these historic surveys. But hold on, we'll need a pro surveyor to back up these old maps." As he dove into drafting the emergency filing, my mind was spinning. Oh, I needed more firepower, didn't I? I jumped in my car and peeled out for the county records office, demanding every scrap they had on Sunny Pines Development Company. Hours later, buried in a dusty back corner of the library, surrounded by towering stacks of public records. I struck pure gold jackpot. Sunny Pines wasn't just some cozy little neighborhood. Oh no, it was a tangled spiderweb of LLCs and holding companies, sneaky and sinister. The same 6 names kept popping up like bad pennies. Diane Reynolds, her again? Her husband Thomas Reynolds? County Commissioner James Harris? Planning Board Director Mark Wilson? And 2 mystery players I couldn't place. But the real kicker? A document from just 3 months ago. A jaw-dropping $16 million loan approval to bankroll Sunny Pines East with my land listed as collateral. Can you believe the nerve? I snapped photos of everything with my phone, my hands trembling with righteous fury, and raced to my next stop, the Meadow Creek Gazette, our trusty local paper. The editor, Tanya Williams, had known Grandpa Joe, bless her heart. When I burst in, spilling my guts about investigating potential fraud tied to big-shot local officials, her eyes lit up like a firecracker. I can't publish accusations without hard evidence, she warned, her voice sharp but curious. But I can dig into this development's approval process. Didn't it seem to zoom through way too fast? Oh, she was hooked. I could feel it. Back at the farmhouse, I found Miss S. Thompson chatting with another old-timer, Mr. Grayson, on the porch. When I dropped Diane Reynolds' name, his face twisted like he'd bitten a lemon. That woman's why I sold my place, he spat, bitterness dripping from every word. The HOA fined me every week for unapproved landscaping, my tomatoes, growing for 20 years. Then they claimed my workshop broke some made-up rule. The fines piled up till I couldn't fight anymore, broke my spirit. How many others got hit like this? I asked, my stomach churning. How deep did this go? At least a dozen old-timers sold out in the last 5 years, always dirt cheap, always to companies tied to those Sunny Pines vultures. He growled. A pattern clicked into place like a puzzle. Find vulnerable folks, bury them in fines and rules, force them to sell low, then rake in millions developing the land. My grandfather? Their latest prey, but oh, he'd been way ahead of them. My phone rang, cutting through the tension. It was Walter Franklin, his voice crackling with news. The judge granted our emergency injunction, he exclaimed. Construction's got to stop right now until the hearing next week. But brace yourself, kid, this is gonna get nasty. I thanked him, hung up, and felt a tiny spark of triumph. Yes. I sped back to the construction site, court order clutched tight in my sweaty hand. The workers were packing up for the day as I rolled in, but there it was, Diane's sleek black SUV, gleaming like a predator near the site office. She strutted out as I approached, phone glued to her ear. As always, did she ever put that thing down? When she spotted me, her face hardened into a mask of ice. Construction stops now, I declared, thrusting the court order at her. Legal boundaries are in dispute. She scanned it, and for a split second, her perfect poise cracked. Did I just see that? This is ridiculous, she snapped. We have every approval we need. Based on fraudulent boundaries, I fired back. I've got the original surveys. For the first time, a flicker of doubt danced in her eyes. Gotcha. But it vanished fast, replaced by that steely resolve. This little stunt will cost you, she hissed, her voice low and venomous. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Oh, I think I do. I shot back, my heart pounding. 6 names on dozens of business filings, $16 million in loans using my stolen land as collateral, county bigwigs fast-tracking approvals for projects. They're secretly cashing in on. I hadn't meant to spill it all, but oh, the look on her face, priceless. Diane's manicured hand gripped her phone so tight her knuckles went white. Did she think she could intimidate me? You're making a mistake, she snarled, leaning in close. We can be reasonable. How about a generous offer for the remaining farmland, 7 figures, cash in hand? Not interested. I snapped. Did she really think I'd sell my soul? Everyone has a price, she purred, her smile slinking back, all confidence and predator vibes. Think about it. You don't even live here. What do you care about some old dirt? This old dirt has been in my family for 4 generations, I roared. It's not for sale, never. I spun on my heel to leave, feeling her glare searing into my back. Could she burn holes through me with those eyes? As I reached my car, she shouted, Commissioner Harris golfs with my husband every weekend. Judge Evans loves my dinner parties? You think your little injunction will hold? You're a nobody here. I peeled out, her taunts ringing in my ears. Oh, they stung. She was right about one thing. I was an outsider now, a city kid in over my head. But she'd missed the big picture. Grandpa wasn't. He'd lived in Meadow Creek his whole life, knew every soul, earned respect even from his foes, and oh, he'd left me more than just land. He'd left me a legacy to fight for. Back at the farmhouse, I stormed into Grandpa's office. Had he seen this coming all along? If he'd anticipated this war, what else did he stash away for me? I tore through it with fresh eyes, flipping every folder, scanning every notebook. Come on, Grandpa, give me something. In an album labeled Community Picnic 2018, I hit pay dirt dozens of photos of him grinning with neighbors, local shop owners, families who'd loved him forever. Each snapshot had names scribbled on the back. These weren't just pictures. They were lifelines, allies who might rally with me against Sunny Pines. Yes. My phone buzzed, jolting me a text from some unknown number. Parking violation at your property. Fine $500. Sunny Pines HOA compliance. Attached, a photo of my car parked on my own land. What the heck? This was it, the harassment Mr. Grayson had warned me about, the paperwork trap. But unlike those poor folks, I wasn't blind. I knew their slimy game now, and I had something they'd never see coming. Grandpa's secret weapon. Still lurking in his files, ready to strike at the perfect moment. Oh, just wait. As night draped over the farm, I sank onto the porch where Grandpa used to spin tales during those golden summer visits. God, I missed him. The eastern field stretched out, silent now, the construction gear sitting idle under the court order. Take that, Diane. But this was just the warm-up. Tomorrow, she'd unleash her cronies. The real battle was barreling toward me. What she didn't get was that I'd unearthed more than surveys in Grandpa's hidden box. I'd found proof, cold, hard proof, of who'd faked those boundary changes, when, and why. Oh, the delicious irony. Diane thought she was squaring off with some sappy grandkid clinging to nostalgia. Ha! She had no clue she was up against Grandpa Joe's ghost, a man who'd chronicled every shady deal, every crooked approval for years, building a case while they dismissed him as a crusty old farmer. The trap was locked and loaded. All I had to do was watch them stumble deeper into it. My heart thundered as I shoved open the glass doors of the Sunny Pines Community Center. Tonight was it, the showdown I'd been plotting for weeks. Inside, nearly 100 folks packed the rows of folding chairs, buzzing about tennis courts and ritzy streets, sipping punch from dinky plastic cups. Did they have any idea what was coming? Up front, Diane Reynolds towered in her flashy red blazer, jabbing at a screen splashed with pictures of sprawling houses. Just imagine the swimming pool with its waterfall feature, she crowed, flashing a megawatt smile. Our homes will be worth so much more once these new neighbors move in. Claps erupted. Someone even whistled. They were clueless, totally clueless about the bomb I was carrying in my folder, ready to blow their party to smithereens. I sucked in a shaky breath and marched down the center aisle. "Excuse me," I called out, loud enough to snap heads around. "Here we go. I need to speak about this development." Diane's smile faltered just for a heartbeat, then snapped back, phonier than ever. "We'll take questions after the presentation," she chirped. "This can't wait." I shot back, climbing onto the stage. Oh, my nerves were screaming. I faced the crowd, their eyes wide and curious. Could they handle this? My name's Alex Morgan, I declared, my voice trembling but strong. My grandfather owned Willow Creek Farm for 60 years. The old property we purchased. Diane jumped in, quick as a snake. Yes, we're so grateful to finally develop that eyesore. Murmurs rippled through the room. Did they buy her act? Oh, they were about to get the shock of their lives. My hands trembled as I flung open my folder and yanked out the first document. Here we go. This is the original land survey from 1910, I declared, thrusting it high for all to see. Could they feel the weight of history in that brittle paper? And this? This is the updated survey from 1978. I waved another sheet, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. According to these legal documents, rock-solid proof, my grandfather's land stretches 80 acres farther east than what's in the county records today. I spun to face the HOA board. Those smug faces lined up behind the podium. Did they think they could just ignore this? I slapped copies down in front of each one, daring them to look away. Put simply, I pressed on, my heart pounding. You're building on land that's legally mine, and not just the new development. Oh no, these boundaries show 20 of your existing homes, and that precious clubhouse are sitting pretty on my property too. The room erupted chaos. Voices clashed. People leaped to their feet, and crash someone sent a chair tumbling. This is ridiculous. Diane bellowed, snatching a survey from the pile. Did she really think she could bluff her way out? We have permits. We've sold lots. Construction's already rolling. Her face flushed redder by the second, but I stood calm, cool as ice, watching her unravel. Your permits? I countered, voice cutting through her tantrum. They're based on bogus property lines. I've already filed with the court to slam the brakes on all building effective immediately. Gerald Fisher, the balding HOA treasurer with his thick glasses, pored over the papers, his panic growing. Oh, he saw it, didn't he? Diane, he hissed, loud enough for the mic to catch. These boundary markers line up with the old creek bed. They look real. She ripped the documents from his grasp, snatched them right out, and snarled, "This is obviously some cheap trick to extort cash from us. We'll fight this nonsense tooth and nail. Go right ahead and try." I shot back, pulling out my ace, the final document, and oh, how sweet this felt. But here's a little bombshell for you, Diane. According to these legal boundaries, your personal house, it's plopped smack dab on my land, every last brick of it. The room fell dead silent, pin drop quiet. People exchanged wide-eyed glances. Did they finally get it? 20 families might not even own the dirt under their feet. A guy in the back bolted up. "Are you saying we could lose our houses?" he shouted, voice cracking. Oh, the fear in his eyes. Before I could ease his mind, Diane slammed her hand on the podium bam and barked, "This meeting's over. Everyone out now. The board needs to huddle up privately." Folks shuffled out, their nervous whispers buzzing like bees, and then a soft touch on my arm. "I'm Rachel Winters," a young woman said, her voice trembling. "I just sank my life savings into a lot in the new section. What's going to happen to me?" Her eyes searched mine. How could I not feel that gut punch? "I'm not here to hurt regular people like you," I assured her, my voice softening with honesty. "This is about righting a wrong, fixing what they stole. Don't you dare listen to him," Diane hissed, popping up beside us like a venomous shadow. Where'd she even come from? Everyone else had cleared out, and there she was, leaning in close, her breath hot on my face. "You have no clue who you're tangling with," she spat. "I built Sunny Pines from scratch. Nothing. Nobody takes it from me, nobody." Her threat lingered, thick and heavy, as she stormed off bam, door slamming, leaving me alone in that hollow room, my chest tight. Through the windows, I watched clusters of homeowners huddle in the parking lot, worried faces, frantic gestures. My phone buzzed. "Mr. Wallace." "How'd it go?" his text read. I tapped back. They know now, brace for their counterpunch. But what I didn't admit, I was rattled, shaken to my core. I'd lit the fuse boom, but was I ready for the blast? These weren't just dots on a blueprint, they were homes, dreams, lives. Yet those dreams? Built on my grandfather's stolen land stolen. Someone was going to lose big, and Diane Reynolds? Oh, she'd fight dirty, I could feel it in my bones. I jolted awake to engines roaring outside Grandpa's farmhouse. What the heck? Bright lights sliced through the windows, blinding me as I stumbled to the porch. 3 white SUVs loomed there, Sunny Pines security plastered on their sides, parked in a row blocking my driveway. Uniformed guys stood like sentinels. One stepped up, shoving a thick envelope at me. Cease and desist notice from the Sunny Pines Homeowners Association. He droned, flat as a robot. You're ordered to drop all claims or face legal action. I ripped it open, my hands shaking, and there it was. A letter claiming my documents were fake, accusing me of fraud, and demanding I pay for trashing their precious reputation. You can't be serious. I snapped, incredulous. He shrugged. Could he care less? Just delivering the message. Have a nice day. He sauntered back, but those SUVs, they didn't budge. Oh no, they were staying. I tried heading to town for breakfast, gotta eat, right? But bam, massive concrete blocks barricaded my driveway overnight. Sorry, sir, one guard smirked. Not sorry at all. This access point's unapproved by the development committee, closed for safety. Safety? I was trapped, caged on my own land. I dialed the sheriff's office pleading help me, but they brushed me off. Civil dispute, get a lawyer, they said. Then my phone rang, Diane's name flashing. How'd she even get my number? Good morning, she chirped, all sugar and venom. Enjoying the view? This is harassment, I growled. You can't block my property. Oh, but we can. She laughed. County records, the real ones say the driveway cuts through Sunny Pines' common areas. We control access, deal with it. You know those records are lies, I roared. She cackled, chilling. Let me break it down for you, sweetie. The county commissioner golfs with my husband every Sunday. The building inspector's daughter's on my payroll. The water department boss, he's one of us, lives in Sunny Pines. My stomach plummeted. Oh God, she had the town in her pocket. By tomorrow, she purred, your farmhouse will rack up 15 code violations minimum. Water might get cut off, oops. Maintenance issues. Contractors, they won't touch your calls, cross me, and they're toast. That's illegal, I shouted. How could she admit this? That's small town politics, darling, she sneered. You can't win, but I'm fair. Drop your claims, sign over those acres, and poof, it's over. I'll even toss in a fat check for your trouble. This isn't about money, I snapped. Did she not get it? It's always about money, dear, she cooed. Think it over, clock's ticking till tomorrow. Click, she was gone. I stared at my phone, then at those security goons still squatting outside. Ugh, they weren't leaving. True to her word, can you believe it? A county inspector rolled up by afternoon, poking around the farmhouse like a vulture. Everything wiring, septic, porch railing suddenly faulty. He handed me a list of violations, thousands to fix. Due yesterday. As he left, a truck rumbled in, workers slapping up signs along my property line. Future home of Sunny Pines East, luxury living coming soon, mocking me. My water slowed to a dribble. Seriously? And the utility company? Maintenance can't say when it'll be fixed. I tried ordering pizza, starving here, but the driver called, confused. Can't find your address, he said. Impossible. Step by step, they were choking me out. That night, I slumped on the porch in the dark, security lights sweeping over Grandpa's cornfields, once alive, now a graveyard. Bulldozers loomed silent in the distance, poised to shred his legacy. Oh, it hurt. My phone glowed. Mr. Wallace, they filed a countersuit, say your docs are forged. Courts in 3 months, they'll build until then. 3 months? The houses would be half up, too late. I scrolled my contacts. Anyone, please? And paused on Janet Rivera. A reporter from the local paper. High school pal, years since we talked, but maybe. As I debated, headlights pierced the night. A car weaving past the barriers, more trouble from Diane. It parked, and out stepped Gerald Fisher, the HOA treasurer from the meeting. "I shouldn't be here," he muttered, eyes darting to the security truck's nervous wreck. "If Diane finds out, why risk it?" I pressed what was up. He fished a flash drive from his pocket, shaky hands. "Because what she's doing, it's wrong, dead wrong. I've kept the HOA books for 7 years. There's stuff you need to see." I ushered him inside quick, out of sight, and at my kitchen table, he cracked open his laptop, unveiling financial records, minutes, emails. Holy cow. Diane and the board treat HOA funds like their piggy bank, he spilled. Fees vanish, contracts go to their kin, reserves funneled into side hustles. "Why tell me?" I asked. "Why me?" "I'm not the only one fed up," he said, eyes blazing. "We're sick of her rules, her grip." "When you showed those documents?" "First time I've seen her sweat ever." Gerald's finger jabbed at the spreadsheet on his laptop screen, bam, and my jaw dropped. "Look at these special assessments from last year," he said, voice trembling with urgency. "Every homeowner shelled out $2,000 for road repairs, $2,000, but the actual work, it cost half that half. The rest, poof, vanished into thin air. That's theft." I gasped, my blood boiling. How could they get away with this? Gerald nodded, his eyes dark with disgust. "And there's more, oh, so much more. Those 20 homes you say are on your land? The folks living there have been screaming about drainage problems for years. Years. Diane keeps promising fixes. Oh, we'll take care of it, but nothing ever happens. Now we know why she knew those houses might not even belong to the HOA legally. Can you believe the audacity?" As we huddled over this bombshell, my phone started buzzing like crazy. Ping, ping, ping. Texts flooding in from numbers I didn't even know. "We support you against Diane," one read. "The Millers, 42 Sunny Pine Lane. She fined us $500 for planting veggies instead of flowers, seriously?" Another chimed, "Can we help? Jackson family, our kids' playground gear got yanked without warning. And then we want in on your fight, the Rodriguezes." Gerald cracked a sly little smile. Did he just wink? "I may have shared your number with a few friends," he admitted. And for the first time since this nightmare kicked off, hope flickered in my chest, real hope. Diane had power, connections, piles of cash, sure, but enemies? Oh, she'd stacked up plenty of those, and they were ready to roar. "We need a plan," I declared, my mind racing. Where do we even start? And I think I've got it. As Gerald slipped out, steering his car past those creepy security trucks. "Careful, buddy." I watched a soft rain drizzle over the half-built houses in the distance. Haunting, wasn't it? Diane thought she was crushing me into submission, thought she had me beat. But oh, how wrong she was. She'd just handed me a gift, the allies I needed to turn this war around. Tomorrow, oh, tomorrow would be a game changer. I'd stop ducking and start swinging. Grandpa Joe always said, "The best trap isn't one your enemy stumbles into, it's one they help you build without a clue." And Diane? She just dropped the final pieces right into my lap. Sweet justice. Then it hit. My water got shut off yesterday, gone. The electricity? Zapped this morning. I stood in Grandpa's kitchen, staring at spoiled food rotting in a warm fridge. Ugh, the stench. Diane Reynolds thought she could bully me off my own land, make my life a living hell. Did she really think I'd just roll over? Oh, she had another thing coming big time. I snatched my notebook and bolted out the door. "War's on, lady. I needed allies now." First stop? Miss S. Thompson's place. She flung the door open in her flowered housecoat, eyes wide. "They shut off your utilities?" she gasped, clutching her chest, shocked. "That's illegal!" "So's building on my land," I fired back, my voice sharp. "But Diane's got the county office in her pocket. I need names. Who else despises that HOA as much as we do? Her eyes sparkled. Oh, she was ready. Honey, grab a chair, this'll take a bit, she chirped, and out poured 15 names like a flood family's fined for the wrong mailbox color. Seriously? Elderly couples slapped with liens just for grandkid visits too often, they said. A single mom hit with a $900 fee for a tiny fence to keep her toddler safe. $900. I spent the whole day pounding the pavement in Sunny Pines, knocking on doors, bam, bam, bam. At first, folks clammed up scared stiff, but when I flashed those property documents proof, something shifted. Hope lit up their faces like sunrise. Sarah Jenkins welcomed me in with lemonade, her hands trembling as she spilled her story. Diane forced my husband to rip out our tomato plants, said veggies aren't aesthetically pleasing. She fumed. Can you imagine? We got a $500 fine. He's already working 2 jobs to keep us afloat. The Patel family? They'd shelled out $3,000 battling the HOA over a porch swing. $3,000. The Johnsons couldn't paint their door their favorite shade. Every house stuck in boring beige and white. Ugh, so dull. It's not just the rules. Trevor Martinez growled, his wife Maria nodding beside him, fired up. It's how they enforce him. Diane cruises around, snapping pics of violations. Some get a slap on the wrist. Others get hammered with fines. No fairness, no rhyme or reason. By sunset, I'd hit 27 families. 27, 27, 27. All with tales of woe, all terrified of Diane Reynolds until now. I grabbed my phone and dialed Mr. Wallace, my attorney, heart racing. Can we legally start a rival homeowners association? I demanded. Could we pull this off? On your land? You bet. He shot back, yes. But the existing homes, what about them? That's where it gets juicy. I grinned. I need the community center for a meeting tomorrow night. He chuckled. Did he doubt me? They'll never let you in. Oh, they don't own it, I do. I reminded him. Boom, my property lines say so. Next day, I churned out 200 flyers, bold and loud. Emergency community meeting. Your home may be at risk. I slapped copies of the original survey on each one, proof in black and white. As night fell, the community center was packed overflowing. 97 families showed up, chairs gone, people lined the walls. Electric. Diane barged in last, shoving through the crowd, face twisted with fury. This meeting's unauthorized. Get out now, she barked. Oh, she was mad. But Sarah Jenkins leaped up, fearless. Or what? More fines? Haven't you bled us dry already? The room exploded in applause, deafening. I strode to the front, hands raised, quiet. Please. I didn't come to stir up trouble. I started, voice steady but my heart thumping. Could they hear it? I came because my grandfather's land was stolen, ripped away. But meeting you all, I see I'm not the only one hurting. For an hour they poured out their pain, HOA horrors. Tears streamed, voices quaked, raw emotion everywhere. Diane sat rigid in the back, fingers flying over her phone, plotting, no doubt. Here's my plan, I announced when they'd all spoken. Here goes nothing. We form the Meadow Creek Homeowners Coalition together. We redraw fair property lines, craft a new community deal, sane rules, clear finances. You can't do that, Diane screeched, jumping up, losing it. These homes are locked into Sunny Pines' HOA by contract. I held up the survey, my trump card. Contracts built on fake ownership? Worthless, Miss Reynolds. But I'm not here to snatch homes. I'm here to mend what's broken. The vote? Nearly unanimous. 89 families signed on right then, yes. As the crowd spilled out, buzzing with hope, Gerald Jenkins sidled up, nervous glances at Diane across the room. There's something you gotta know, he whispered, spilling secrets. The HOA finances? They're a mess. Dues keep climbing, reserves keep shrinking. I've tried digging, but Diane's got the accounts locked tight. I clapped his shoulder. Ally number one, will you show me those books? He nodded. Game on. Tomorrow morning, my office. Diane stormed over, finger jabbing my face. Yikes. You've made a huge mistake, she snarled, venom dripping. By tomorrow, you'll wish you'd never set foot in Meadow Creek. That a threat, Miss Reynolds? I asked, bring it! It's a promise, she hissed. County commissioner, police chief, local judge, they're all on my speed dial. This rebellion? Dead in the water. Oh, but she didn't know. I'd slipped a Meadow Creek Gazette reporter into the back row quiet as a mouse. Every word, every threat caught on tape. Gotcha. The door slammed shut behind Diane. Bang. And my phone buzzed right on cue. Perfect timing. It was Mr. Wallace, environmental survey. Results just dropped. You won't believe what's on that land. A grin crept across my face. Oh, yes. Diane thought she held all the cards' power, but Grandpa Joe's words echoed in my soul. The truth, kid. That's the mightiest weapon of all. And tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow the truth about Sunny Pines' HOA would explode across the front page. Boom. Headline news. I jolted awake to the growl of engines. What the heck? And peeked out to see police cars circling Grandpa's farmhouse like vultures. Through the window, there she was, Diane Reynolds, smirking next to a towering uniformed man. Ugh. Really? Time to face the music, the police chief barked as I cracked the door open. You're trespassing on private property. I flashed a calm smile, cool as ice. Actually, Chief Williams, the first thing you'll find, I'm the legal owner here. I handed him a folder stuffed with the original land surveys and Grandpa's deed. Bam. Proof. Those haven't been verified. Diane snapped, her voice sharp. Nervous much? Oh, they have, a woman piped up, stepping from a car. I hadn't even clocked. Carolyn Mitchell, County Records Office. We dug up the originals last night, after some troubling reports. Diane's face strained white. Did she feel the ground slipping? What reports? I asked, gesturing toward the farmhouse. Come on in. Let's hash this out inside. Coffee's hot. 15 minutes later, my kitchen table was a wild scene. Can you picture it? The police chief, the records clerk, Mr. Wallace, my attorney, and Diane, her flawless makeup crumbling under panic. The property lines were botched back in 1973, Carolyn explained, unrolling maps across the table. History unfolding. This whole chunk, the existing Sunny Pines homes, the new construction, it's all legally the Richards estate. The chief let out a low whistle. Wow, that's some mix-up. Not a mix-up, Mr. Wallace cut in, voice low and deadly. Here it comes. We've got evidence it was intentional. Ridiculous. Diane slammed her hand down, crack, rattling the mugs. This is a con to squeeze cash from honest homeowners. Speaking of cash, I slid a folder to the chief. Bam. Another bombshell. Gerald Jenkins handed over these yesterday. 3 years of Sunny Pines' HOA accounts. The chief flipped through, his face darkening. Oh, Miss Reynolds, care to explain why $427,000 in dues got funneled to Sunshine Consulting, LLC? That's our legit management company, she snapped, stiff as a board. Defensive much? Registered to your son-in-law, I added, leaning in. Gotcha, plus 4 other companies billing the HOA landscaping, security, maintenance, legal, all cozy family businesses. The chief snapped the folder shut. Done. Miss Reynolds, you're coming with me to the station. This is insane, she shrieked, losing it. Do you know who I am? My husband golfs with Judge Harrington every Sunday. But the chief marched her out, protests echoing, and Carolyn turned to me, eyes wide. What now? Those folks' homes? No one's getting evicted. I promised, heart on my sleeve, but we've got to halt construction till we survey the wetlands. By afternoon, the site was dead silent. News vans swarmed the street, cameras everywhere, and my phone wouldn't quit ringing, homeowners freaking out. I called an emergency town hall that night. Go big or go home. The high school auditorium was the only spot big enough. Nearly 400 souls crammed in. Homeowners, laid-off workers, county bigwigs, nosy locals, fear and fury thick in the air. Could you feel it? I sucked in a shaky breath and grabbed the mic. Here we go. I'm Richards. This was my grandfather's land. I started, voice steady, heart racing. I didn't come for trouble. I came to honor his legacy. Shouts cut me off raw. What about our homes? We'll sue you. My life savings are in that house. I raised my hands, hold up. Please, I'm not here to take anything. I've got a plan to help us all. The crowd hushed just a bit, hanging on my words. First off, I pressed on, hope rising. Every current homeowner gets a proper deed. No one loses their home, period. Relief rippled through soft murmurs. Second, the new development. It's getting a redo to save the wetlands Grandpa loved. I clicked to a slide, his studies glowing on screen. These aren't just swamps, they're vital habitats. Flood shields for us all. 3 endangered species, call them home building there? Wrong and illegal, federal law says so. A guy stood up, voice shaky. I sank my savings into a new lot. What happens to me? Great question. I nodded, fair's fair. We're launching a property swap, trade your lot in the protected zone for one in the new layout. No losses, I swear. For an hour, I painted my dream. Could they see it? A community blending homes and nature, honest leadership, sane rules, fees that actually fix stuff. Near the end, Sarah Jenkins grabbed the mic, fire in her eyes. 8 years under Diane's thumb. She cried, truth spilling out. No blue door, no tomatoes, kids hushed after 7 p.m. noise ordinance nonsense. Is that the life we want? She demanded, scanning the room, heads shaking. By the end, over 300 signed up for the Meadow Creek Community Association, yes. Even some of Diane's old cronies jumped ship, like Gerald, who pledged to unravel the money mess teamwork. The next 6 months, brutal, Diane's fancy lawyers threw every dirty trick, twisting, fighting, but our evidence, ironclad, too strong. She caved, took a plea deal on the fraud charges, busted. Now, a year later, I'm perched on Grandpa's porch piece at last, watching kids zip by on bikes, houses sporting doors in every wild color, imaginable freedom. The community gardens alive, Sarah's tomatoes, towering neighbors swapping tips, laughing together, pure joy. Behind me, the farmhouse, our community hub, now classes, meetings, parties every day, Grandpa's dream reborn. The wetlands, safe under a conservation easement, walking trails winding through, signs teaching about every plant, every critter sacred. Miss S. Thompson plops down beside me, lemonade in hand, refreshing. Your grandfather'd be bursting with pride. She beams, nodding toward the revamped development, smaller homes, green spaces, solar panels gleaming, progress. Found something cleaning his study. I say, pulling out a faded notebook treasure, his journal 30 years back. He fought the first developers, 2 wetlands in their sights. She grins, warmth radiating. He always said you were his spitting image, stubborn as a mule for what's right. Far off, a blue heron lifts from the marsh, majestic, soaring over homes nestled in harmony with the land. Beautiful, isn't it? Sometimes the best trap isn't nabbing the bad guy, it's showing a better path. Diane's HOA tried to swipe my land thieves, but instead they handed me something priceless: redemption, community, legacy. Oh, what a gift.